Evelyn Carter died on a Thursday night, in the kind of rain that made the whole city look guilty. 3 hours before the accident, she had stood barefoot in the bathroom, staring at 2 pink lines on a pregnancy test. For a long time she did not move. Then she laughed. It was a tiny sound. Fragile. Almost frightened. She pressed one hand against her stomach. "Hi," she whispered. The apartment outside was quiet. Ryan was not home yet. He had promised he would be back for dinner, but promises from Ryan Holloway had become things Evelyn learned not to hold too tightly. Still, tonight was different. Tonight she wanted to believe. She cooked soup because Ryan's stomach had been hurting again. She set out his medicine beside the bowl. She placed the pregnancy test inside a small white box and tied it with a ribbon she found in an old drawer. When the door finally opened, rain and cold air followed him inside. Ryan walked in wearing a black coat, his phone already in his hand. Evelyn stood from the dining table. "You're late." "I know." He did not look at the food. He did not look at her. "I'm going out again." Her fingers tightened around the edge of the chair. "Again." "Sophie's birthday dinner. I told you last week." No, he had not. Or maybe he had mentioned it while passing through the apartment like a guest checking out of a hotel. Evelyn looked at the white box on the table. "I have something to tell you. Can it wait?" The question landed softly, which somehow made it hurt more. She looked at him. "Ryan, it's important." He finally glanced at her, impatient. "Sophie is waiting." Sophie Bennett. His childhood friend. His first investor, according to everyone. The woman Ryan protected with a tenderness he had forgotten to use at home. Evelyn's voice trembled. "Do you even remember what day it is?" Ryan frowned. "Not this again. Today is our anniversary." His expression changed, not with guilt, but irritation. "Evelyn, I have had meetings since 6 this morning. And I have had a marriage alone for 3 years. Silence. Then his face hardened. "Don't start." She should have stopped. She knew that. But grief had lived in her chest for too long, and tonight, there was a child beneath her heart. Evelyn pushed the little white box toward him. "Open it." Ryan did not touch it. His phone rang. "Sophie." Evelyn saw the name on the screen. Something inside her broke quietly. Ryan answered. His voice softened at once. "I'm coming." Evelyn stared at him. When he ended the call, she whispered, "If you walk out tonight, don't come back." Ryan looked at her as if she had become a stranger. Then he laughed once, cold and tired. "Have I spoiled you too much all these years?" The slap came before she understood he had moved. Her face turned to the side. The apartment became silent. Ryan froze, but only for a second. Then pride took the place of apology. "Evelyn, stop making everything about yourself." She touched her cheek slowly. The baby in her body felt impossibly small. Her voice became calm. "Go." Ryan picked up his car keys. And he went. Evelyn did not remember deciding to leave the apartment. She remembered the elevator mirror. Her red cheek. Her wet eyes. The pregnancy test still sitting unopened on the dining table. She remembered thinking that she should not cry too much because stress was bad for the baby. The thought almost made her laugh. Outside, Seattle was drowning in rain. Wind pushed water across the pavement. Cars blurred past in streaks of red and white. Evelyn wrapped her coat around herself and walked without knowing where she was going. Her phone kept vibrating. Not Ryan. Amelia. Her sister called 3 times before Evelyn answered. "Eve? Where are you?" Evelyn tried to speak, but her throat closed. Amelia's voice sharpened. "What happened?" "Nothing." "Do not say nothing in that voice." Evelyn looked up at the traffic light. It was green for pedestrians. She stepped forward. "Amelia," she whispered, "I think I'm tired." A horn screamed. Headlights tore through the rain. Someone shouted. For one suspended second, Evelyn thought of the white box on the table. Then the world shattered. When she opened her eyes again, she was standing beside the road. People ran past her. A woman screamed into a phone. Rain fell through Evelyn's hands. She looked down. Her body lay twisted beneath a broken umbrella. Blood mixed with rainwater and moved slowly toward the gutter. Evelyn stared. "Oh." She took a step forward. "Oh." A paramedic dropped beside her body, pressing fingers to her neck. Another shouted for equipment. Someone kept saying there was no pulse. Someone else asked whether she was pregnant. Pregnant. Evelyn's hands went to her stomach. There was nothing there now. Only cold. Only air. She tried to scream, but no one heard her. A car door opened nearby. Amelia stumbled out, barefoot, hair soaked with rain. She pushed through the paramedics and fell to her knees beside Evelyn's body. No. No, no, no. Her voice broke so completely that even the rain seemed to quiet. Evelyn reached for her sister. Her hand passed through Amelia's shoulder. That was when she understood. She had not survived. Neither had her child. At midnight, Ryan stood in a private room at the top of a hotel, holding a glass of champagne while Sophie Bennett blew out the candles on a birthday cake. Everyone clapped. Ryan smiled. Evelyn stood beside him, invisible and dripping with rain that no longer touched the floor. Sophie leaned toward him. Thank you for coming. I know Evelyn doesn't like me. Ryan's smile faded slightly. Don't worry about her. Evelyn looked at him. Don't worry about her. Those were the first words her husband said after her death. And for some reason that hurt more than the impact of the car. Amelia buried Evelyn 3 days later. She chose a quiet cemetery on a hill overlooking the water because Evelyn had once said she liked places where the sky felt large. There were no reporters. No business partners. No husband standing in black with regret carved across his face. Ryan did not come. Amelia did not tell him. At first, Evelyn did not understand why. She followed her sister through the funeral home, the hospital paperwork, the police report, the small white coffin that held what remained of the child no one else had known about. Then she watched Amelia sit alone in Evelyn's apartment. The soup had gone cold. The medicine remained beside the bowl. The white box still sat unopened on the table. Amelia picked it up with shaking hands. When she saw the pregnancy test, she covered her mouth and made a sound Evelyn wished she could forget. After that, Amelia stopped reaching for her phone. Ryan called once the next afternoon. Amelia looked at his name on the screen until it stopped ringing. Then she blocked him. 6 months passed strangely after death. Evelyn learned that ghosts did not sleep. They did not eat. They did not age. They simply remained tied to whatever hurt them most. For Evelyn, that was Ryan. She followed him because she had nowhere else to go. She watched him move through life as though she had gone on a long trip instead of dying under rain-soaked headlights. He worked late. He attended dinners. He took calls from Sophie at midnight. He drove her home when she drank too much. He remembered her favorite desserts, her allergies, her fear of thunder. Evelyn watched all of it in silence. For 3 years of marriage, she had begged Ryan to look at her like that. He never had. Sometimes he came home and paused at the doorway, frowning at the apartment as if something felt wrong. Then his phone would ring and the moment passed. Once he opened the closet and stared at Evelyn's coats. Still throwing a tantrum, he muttered. Evelyn stood beside him. I'm dead, she said. He could not hear her. Another time, his assistant asked whether he wanted to file a missing person report for Mrs. Holloway. Ryan signed a document without looking up. No. She'll come back when she gets tired of proving a point. Evelyn laughed then. A soft, empty laugh. In life, she had loved him until she had almost disappeared. In death, he still thought her absence was about him. 6 months after Evelyn died, Ryan remembered the watch. It was late November. The city had already begun decorating for Christmas. Sophie sat across from him in a restaurant, laughing at something on her phone. Ryan barely listened. His wrist felt strangely empty. Then he remembered. The watch Sophie had given him years ago. The one he had asked Evelyn to send for repair before the accident. His favorite, not because it was expensive but because Sophie had once said it suited him. He put down his glass. I need to make a call. Sophie looked up. Now. It'll be quick. Ryan stepped outside the restaurant and called Evelyn. The number did not connect. He tried again. Nothing. Irritation rose before concern could. Finally, he called from another number. Someone answered on the 4th ring. A woman's voice. Who is this? Ryan frowned. Where is Evelyn? Silence. Then Amelia Carter said, Ryan Holloway. Tell your sister to answer her phone. She can't. I'm not in the mood for this. Neither am I. Ryan's jaw tightened. Where is the watch I asked her to repair? The one Sophie gave me. Did she hide it? For several seconds, there was only breathing on the line. Then Amelia laughed. It was not a happy sound. That is why you called? Ryan's patience snapped. Tell Evelyn she has made enough trouble. He wants to be angry, fine. But stealing my things is childish. Amelia's voice became flat. Evelyn is dead. Ryan froze. Rain tapped against the restaurant awning above him. What did you say? I said my sister is dead. Congratulations, Ryan. She will never be jealous of Sophie Bennett again. For 1 second the world lost sound. Then Ryan scoffed. Is this her new trick? Amelia said nothing. His voice turned cruel because fear had touched him, and Ryan had never known what to do with fear except turn it into anger. Does she think pretending to die will make me regret something? Tell her to come back on her own or stay dead wherever she is. The silence after that felt different. Heavy. Final. When Amelia spoke again, her voice was shaking with hatred. You don't deserve to know where she is buried. Then she hung up. Ryan stood outside the restaurant, phone in hand, heart beating too fast. Sophie opened the door behind him. Ryan, is everything okay? He turned. Her face was soft with concern. For some reason, he suddenly remembered Evelyn standing in the dining room, one cheek red, eyes full of something he had refused to name. Ryan pushed the memory away. Nothing, he said. Because it had to be nothing. Evelyn could not be dead. He was too stubborn. Too dramatic. Too in love with him to leave forever. The first crack in Ryan's certainty came from his stomach. It happened during a weekend trip with Sophie. She wanted to hike a trail outside the city because she had seen pictures online and decided the view would be perfect for her social media account. Ryan hated hiking, but Sophie smiled at him over coffee and said it would mean a lot. So he went. Halfway up the trail, the pain began. It started as a dull ache beneath his ribs. By lunch, it had sharpened into something hot and twisting. Ryan sat on a bench near the overlook, one hand pressed against his stomach. Sophie opened a paper bag. I got tacos from that place you like. Ryan looked at the food. Spicy beef. Hot sauce. Pickled peppers. His stomach cramped harder. I can't eat that. Sophie blinked. Why not? He stared at her. For years, Evelyn had kept antacids in every car he owned. She knew which foods triggered pain, which tea calmed it, which hospital had his records, and exactly how long he would pretend he was fine before turning pale. Sophie did not know he had a chronic stomach condition. The realization was small. Then it was not. My stomach hurts, he said. Sophie laughed softly as if he were being dramatic. Then I'll rub it for you later. She said it playfully, but Ryan felt cold. Evelyn would have already found warm water. Evelyn would have scolded him for skipping breakfast. Evelyn would have pulled medicine from her bag before he admitted he needed it. Ryan stood too quickly. The pain doubled. Let's go back. Sophie pouted. But we just got here. Something in him tightened. By the time he returned home that evening, his face was gray. The housekeeper, Mrs. Lane, took one look at him and hurried to the kitchen. 20 minutes later, she brought a bowl of plain rice porridge with ginger, exactly the way Evelyn used to make it. Ryan stared at the bowl. Where did you learn this? Mrs. Lane hesitated. Mrs. Holloway taught me, sir. She said you would never ask for it, so someone had to remember. Ryan did not move. Evelyn stood beside the table watching him. He picked up the spoon. The porridge was warm. Simple. Familiar. Halfway through the bowl, Ryan's hand stopped. For the first time in 6 months, the apartment did not feel empty because Evelyn was gone. It felt empty because he had never noticed how much of it had been her. Ryan went to Amelia's apartment the next morning. He told himself it was because of the watch. That was a lie, but he was not ready to admit it. Amelia lived in a small brick building near the university hospital where she worked as a surgical nurse. When she opened the door and saw him, her face went completely still. No. He tried to close the door. Ryan caught it. I need to see Evelyn. Amelia stared at him. The hatred in her eyes was so clean it almost looked calm. You are 6 months late. His fingers tightened on the doorframe. Stop saying that. Why? Does the truth disturb your schedule? Where is she? In the ground. Ryan's face darkened. Enough. Amelia laughed once. You still don't believe it? No. Of course you don't. Believing would require you to understand that the world does not wait for your permission. He pushed into the apartment. Call her. Amelia walked to a drawer, removed a folder and threw it onto the table. Police report. Death certificate. Hospital record. Accident photographs covered by a paperclip. Ryan did not touch them. His body refused. Amelia looked at him with disgust. Too late to be afraid. Ryan's voice was hoarse. Why didn't you tell me? I answered your call. Before that. Amelia stepped closer. Because while my sister was being cremated, you were photographed at Sophie's birthday dinner. Because while I was choosing a burial plot, you were sending Sophie roses. Because Evelyn died with your child in her body, and you did not even notice she was gone. The room tilted. Ryan grabbed the edge of the table. What? Amelia's face changed. For one brief moment, grief broke through anger. Then she opened another envelope and placed a photograph in front of him. A pregnancy test. 2 pink lines. A small white box tied with ribbon. It was on your dining table, she said. Unopened. Ryan stared at it. The world became soundless. He remembered Evelyn pushing the box toward him. Open it. He remembered his phone ringing. Sophie waiting. His own voice. Can it wait? Ryan's knees nearly gave out. Amelia did not help him. She wanted to tell you, she said. But you had somewhere more important to be. Ryan reached for the chair and missed. For the first time since Evelyn's death, he fell. Ryan woke on Amelia's floor with rain tapping against the windows. For a moment, he thought he was in his own apartment and Evelyn would appear with warm water, worried anger, and medicine in her hand. Then he saw Amelia sitting across from him. Reality returned. Evelyn was dead. His child was dead. And he had told her to stay dead wherever she was. Ryan pushed himself up slowly. Where is she buried? Amelia's mouth tightened. No. Please. The word sounded strange in his mouth. Amelia looked at him for a long time. You don't get to use grief as proof of love. I know. Do you? He could not answer. She stood and walked to the window. She loved you when you had nothing. Do you remember that? Ryan's throat tightened. Of course he remembered. A tiny apartment. A collapsing startup. Investors leaving one by one. Debt so heavy he had once sat in the bathroom with the lights off because he could not bear another call. Sophie had been there then. Smiling in photographs. Telling him he was brilliant. Saying she wished she could help more. Then one day a transfer arrived. $1.5 million. Sophie said she had sold her car, borrowed against her apartment, emptied everything she had. Ryan believed her. He built Holloway systems on that money. He protected Sophie because gratitude had turned into obligation, and obligation had worn love's clothing for years. Amelia turned back. Let me guess. Sophie told you she saved your company. Ryan looked up. His silence was answer enough. Amelia laughed, bitter and shaking. She really did steal everything. What are you talking about? That money was Evelyn's. No. Yes. No, Sophie sold. Sophie sold nothing. Amelia's voice cut through his. That money was the settlement from our parents' accident. Evelyn was 22. She had no family left except me and she gave all of it to you. Ryan could not breathe. Amelia continued. She worked 2 jobs after that because she had nothing left. She lost weight until I thought she would collapse. She told me it was worth it because one day when you stood at the top, you would know she had stood beside you at the bottom. Ryan's hands began to shake. Evelyn stood near the doorway watching. She had imagined this moment once. The truth revealed. Ryan shattered. Her pain recognized. But now that it had arrived, she felt only tired. Amelia opened the door. Leave. Ryan looked at the folder on the table. Can I take? No. You took enough from her. The door closed in his face. Ryan stood in the hallway, unable to move. For the first time, he understood that Evelyn had not left him. He had abandoned her long before she died. Amelia took Ryan to the cemetery 1 week later. Not because she forgave him. Because Evelyn's grave had begun appearing in his dreams, though he had never seen it. He waited outside Amelia's building in the rain without an umbrella. When she came down, she looked at him with the cold satisfaction of someone watching punishment arrive too late. Get in, she said. They drove in silence. The cemetery sat on a hill above the water. Wet grass bent beneath the wind. Gray clouds covered the sky. Amelia stopped in front of a simple black stone. Ryan stepped out of the car. Then he saw the name. Evelyn Carter Holloway. Beloved sister. Beloved mother. His body stopped working. Amelia stood behind him. She kept your name, though I told her not to. Ryan took one step forward. Then another. When he reached the grave, he dropped to his knees. The photograph on the stone showed Evelyn smiling softly. Not the exhausted woman from their last night. Not the ghost who had followed him for months. The girl from before he had taught her how much love could hurt. Ryan touched the photograph with trembling fingers. Evelyn. The name broke. No one answered. He lowered his forehead to the wet stone. Amelia did not stop him until blood mixed with rain on his skin. Enough. Do not dirty her grave with your performance. Ryan looked up. His face was unrecognizable. Did she hate me? Amelia's eyes reddened. No. Somehow that hurt worse. She kept loving you. That was her tragedy. Ryan made a sound that did not belong to a living man. Amelia handed him Evelyn's old phone. I should have thrown this into the sea. But maybe you should read what love looked like before you ruined it. Ryan took it as if it were sacred. That night he sat alone in Evelyn's apartment. The password was his birthday. Of course it was. The Notes app opened first. There were hundreds of entries. Some were grocery lists. Some were medicine reminders. Some were recipes for stomach porridge. Some were little records of hope. Ryan likes the blue tie. Remember to send it for cleaning. Ryan came home early today. He looked tired, but he ate 2 bowls. If the company survives this year, maybe we can finally take a trip. Then the entries changed. Ryan left on our wedding night. Sophie called and he went. I told myself not to cry. I failed. Ryan read until morning. By sunrise he understood. Evelyn had not died in one accident. He had killed her slowly for years. The final entry was dated the night Evelyn died. Ryan almost did not open it. His hands were shaking too hard. But grief was no longer something he deserved to avoid. He tapped the screen. I am pregnant. The sentence sat alone at the top. Under it, Evelyn had written more. I should be scared, but I am happy. I know Ryan has been distant. I know he cares about Sophie more than he admits. But maybe this baby will make him look at me again. No, that sounds wrong. A baby should not have to save a marriage. Still, I want to believe he will be happy. Ryan pressed the phone against his mouth. Evelyn's words blurred. I bought a little white box. It is silly, but I want to tell him gently. His stomach hurt last night. I made soup today. If he eats first, maybe he will be in a better mood. A broken sound escaped him. The entry continued. I gained almost 5 pounds this month. The doctor said it is good. I used to be too thin. Ryan once said I looked like I might disappear. I laughed then. I did not tell him I was trying so hard to become healthy enough to carry a child for us. Ryan remembered. He had mocked her appetite once. Had asked why she suddenly ate like she was trying to prove something. She had smiled. He had not noticed her hands shaking beneath the table. The final lines were shorter. If he is happy, I will forgive everything for a while. If he is not, I do not know what I will do. But I hope he opens the box. Ryan dropped the phone. It hit the carpet without sound. He bent forward, both hands in his hair, unable to breathe. Evelyn stood beside him. For the first time since becoming a ghost, she wanted to touch him. Not to comfort him. To make him understand that pain after loss was not love. It was consequence. Ryan spent 3 days in that apartment. He did not answer calls. He did not eat. He read every note, every message, every draft Evelyn had never sent. On the 4th day, Sophie came. She knocked first. Then used the old passcode when he did not answer. Ryan. Her voice was soft. Concerned. Familiar. He looked up from the floor. For years he had seen salvation when Sophie entered a room. Now he saw the shadow standing over Evelyn's grave. Sophie's smile faltered. What happened to you? Ryan stood slowly. Did you know? She blinked. Know what? That the money was Evelyn's. The room went colder than death. Sophie's face changed for only a second. But Ryan saw it. That was enough. He walked toward her. You knew. Sophie stepped back. Ryan, listen to me. Say it. It was complicated. The answer destroyed the last lie. Ryan laughed. A terrible empty laugh. Complicated. Sophie reached for him. I loved you. I was there when you were about to lose everything. Evelyn would have ruined you. He was weak. She made you soft. His expression went still. Evelyn watched from the corner of the room as if the scene belonged to someone else's life. Sophie continued, tears gathering perfectly in her eyes. I only let you believe what you needed to believe. You needed a reason to keep going. You needed me. Ryan's voice dropped. I needed my wife. Sophie froze. He had never said that before. Not like that. Not with truth behind it. Ryan picked up Evelyn's phone from the table. She gave me everything. She was your wife. Wasn't that what she was supposed to do? The words landed like a match in gasoline. Ryan moved before Evelyn understood. His hand closed around Sophie's throat. Sophie gasped. Ryan pushed her backward through the open balcony doors. Rain swept inside. The city stretched 16 floors below them, lights flickering through mist. Ryan, Sophie choked. Please. His eyes were empty. She begged too. Evelyn shouted. Stop. No one heard. For the first time, being dead felt like being trapped inside glass. Sophie clawed at his wrist. I didn't kill her. Ryan's grip tightened. No. I did. The words broke him. His hands loosened just enough. Sirens sounded below. Someone had called the police. Security burst into the apartment. 2 officers followed. Ryan did not resist when they dragged him away from the balcony. Sophie collapsed, coughing and sobbing. Ryan looked past her. For a moment, Evelyn thought his eyes found hers. Impossible. Yet he whispered, I'm sorry. Not to Sophie. Not to the police. To the empty space where his wife stood. The trial came quickly. Attempted assault. Public scandal. Corporate fallout. Holloway Systems removed him from leadership within a month. Ryan accepted 3 years in prison without appeal. When Sophie visited him once, wearing a scarf around her bruised throat, she cried behind the glass. I can still help you. Ryan looked at her as if she were a stranger. The thing I regret most is that because of you I hurt Evelyn. Sophie's tears stopped. And because of myself, he added. Then he stood and walked away. Evelyn remained on the other side of the glass. At last, Ryan had learned how to choose her. Too late. Prison did not make Ryan better. It only made him quieter. He spent 3 years writing letters to a dead woman. Evelyn never read them at first. She already knew enough of his words. They were always more beautiful after they could no longer change anything. But ghosts had endless time, and eventually loneliness wore down even resentment. The first letter began with her name. Evelyn. I do not know whether the dead can hear the living. I hope they cannot. If you can hear me, then I have no right to ask you to listen. I found your porridge recipe in Mrs. Lane's drawer today. I cried over rice and ginger like a fool. You would have laughed. Well, you would have worried. That is worse. Evelyn folded herself beside the prison wall and listened. Years in life had not taught Ryan tenderness. Loss did. The letters continued. He wrote about the baby without naming it for months because he said he did not deserve to. Then one day he wrote that if the child had been a girl, Evelyn would have chosen something gentle. If a boy, she would have pretended to let him choose and then quietly rejected every terrible name he suggested. Evelyn almost smiled. Almost. When Ryan left prison, no one waited for him. Holloway Systems had survived without him. Sophie had moved to California and built a new identity out of lies that sounded smaller than before. Amelia never answered his messages. Ryan returned to Evelyn's grave. He was thinner. Older. Ruined in ways that did not show in photographs. He knelt before the stone and placed a small pair of white baby shoes beside the flowers. I don't know what to do now, he whispered. The wind moved through the cemetery grass. Evelyn stood behind him. For years she had thought his suffering would give her peace. It did not. Peace, she realized, had nothing to do with Ryan anymore. That frightened her. Because if her pain no longer belonged to him, then perhaps she was finally ready to leave. Ryan took out a bottle of pills. Evelyn stared. No. He did not hear. His hand trembled as he opened it. Then Amelia appeared. She crossed the wet grass and slapped the bottle from his hand. How dare you? Ryan looked up, stunned. Amelia was crying. You do not get to die and pretend that is love. You live. You remember her. You carry it. That is your punishment. Ryan broke then. Not beautifully. Not dramatically. Like a man whose last escape had been taken away. Evelyn watched her sister stand over him like judgment. And for the first time since the accident, She felt grateful that Ryan could not follow her where she was going. Ryan lived. Not well. But he lived. Years passed in a blur of gray mornings and hospital-white memories. He bought Evelyn's apartment and never changed the furniture. He funded a maternal emergency center in her name. He sent money to Amelia's hospital anonymously until she discovered it and returned every check torn in half. He did not remarry. He did not forgive himself. Sometimes he saw Sophie in the news, smiling beside men who did not know what she had done. Once, years after prison, he found her waiting outside Evelyn's grave. She looked older too. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Sophie said, "I loved you." Ryan looked at her. "No. You loved being chosen." The words landed quietly. Sophie smiled with tears in her eyes. "Is there a difference?" "Yes." He walked away. That should have been the end. But grief has strange patience. One winter night, 25 years after Evelyn's death, Ryan drove through the rain toward the cemetery. He was older now. His hair had silver at the temples. His hands shook when the weather turned cold. Doctors said his heart was weak. Ryan did not care. On the passenger seat lay Evelyn's phone, preserved like a relic. At a red light, he looked at the cracked screen and whispered, "I am tired." The light changed. A truck crossed against the signal. Metal screamed. Glass burst. Rain entered through broken windows. For a moment, Ryan thought death had finally come to collect him. Instead, he opened his eyes to a hospital ceiling. Machines beeped beside him. His body felt ancient. A nurse shouted for a doctor. Ryan tried to speak and failed. A doctor leaned over him. "Mr. Holloway? Can you hear me?" Ryan blinked. "Good. You've been in a coma for 25 years. The words made no sense. 25 years. The prison. The letters. The cemetery. The years of punishment. A dream? No. Not a dream. A sentence written inside the darkness of his own mind. The doctor continued speaking, but Ryan heard nothing. Because near the doorway, a woman walked past carrying a child on her hip. Ryan's heart stopped. Evelyn. She looked older than the girl who had died, but younger than he deserved to see. Alive. Warm. Laughing at something the little boy said. A man walked beside her, carrying flowers and a diaper bag. Her husband. Ryan tore the oxygen mask from his face. Evelyn. The woman turned. For one impossible second he believed mercy existed. Then her expression changed. Not recognition. Discomfort. She pulled the child closer. The little boy whispered, "Mom, who's that?" The woman frowned slightly. "I don't know, sweetheart. Just an old man." Her husband stepped protectively beside her. Ryan began to cry. "Evelyn, it's me." She looked at him with polite unease, then turned away. As she passed her husband, Ryan heard her murmur, "He feels frightening." The words were soft, almost careless. They destroyed him. Ryan lay back against the pillow, tears sliding into his gray hair. God had given Evelyn another life. A bright one. A husband who carried flowers. A child who held her neck. A world where Ryan Holloway was nothing but a frightening old stranger in a hospital corridor. At last he understood. Some love arrived too late to become love. It could only become regret. And regret, no matter how deep, could not raise the dead. Nor could it follow them into a life where they were finally free.